The first wave arrived before dawn. From the command deck of Vigilant 1, Commander Arya Vance watched the stars vanish, blotted out by the advancing wall of alien warships. Their hulls shimmered like liquid obsidian, the starlight bending around them. The Dominion fleet had come in silence, their approach masked until the gravity wells of Erebus 9 began to ripple. Every sensor flared red. Contact, bearing 017. 40 signatures and counting. Lieutenant Ramos reported, his voice clipped, steady only through discipline. Aria's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. Sound general alert. Bring the kinetic array online and divert all auxiliary power to shields. The deck vibrated as automated cannons extended from the station's hull. In the reflection of the glass, her eyes looked hollow, sleepless. 10 days of anticipation distilled into one frozen instant. The Zereth Dominion had already raised 3 human colonies. The broadcasts from those worlds ended the same way, static, followed by a calm alien voice demanding surrender. No one ever heard from them again. The comm unit crackled. This is control to all defense wings. Engage upon visual confirmation. Through the viewport, Arya saw the first streaks of plasma light the void. The Dominion began their bombardment, precise, methodical, terrifying in its elegance. Fire pattern Delta, she ordered. Make them bleed for every kilometer. Her gunners responded instantly. The kinetic slugs roared from their magnetic rails, invisible to the eye but deadly fast. The first salvo struck a cruiser, sparking blue fire across its shields. The enemy formation wavered for less than a heartbeat before closing ranks again. The station shuddered under return fire. Alarms screamed. Sparks burst from an overhead panel, showering the deck in light. Shield integrity at 68%, Ramos called out. Hold it together, Arya said. We're not dying yet. She opened a channel to the surface. Ground Command, this is Vigilant 1. Evacuation Priority 1. Get the civilians through the wormhole gate before it collapses. Static answered first, then a strained voice. Yes, Commander. Gate is unstable, 30 minutes, maybe less. Make them count. A deep tremor rolled through the station, nearly throwing her off balance. The alien cruiser they damaged was now spiraling toward the planet, a wounded Leviathan trailing plasma fire. A single victory, but small. Arya exhaled slowly. That's one they won't forget. A transmission pierced through every channel at once. The voice was smooth, resonant, utterly alien. Humans of Erebus 9. I am Vorth Kael'Thuin, High Marshal of the Zereth Dominion. Your resistance is futile. Lay down your weapons. Your age is over. The crew fell silent. Only the low hum of failing shields filled the room. Arya looked up, jaw tightening. She keyed the broadcast mic. This is Commander Arya Vance of the Erebus Defense Wing. Her voice was steady, cold. You want our surrender? Then come and take it. The transmission cut. A heartbeat later, the Dominion ships opened fire again. Commander! Ramos shouted. Multiple hits on Section 5. Reactor 2 is unstable. Arya's mind calculated faster than fear could rise. Seal the bulkheads. Vent Section 5 and reroute power through auxiliary conduits. Ma'am, that'll overload. Do it. The deck dimmed as emergency lighting replaced the flickering overhead panels. Somewhere below, an explosion thudded like distant thunder. She watched as debris from a shattered satellite drifted across the viewport, human relics turning to dust. The sight hit her harder than she expected. A memory surfaced, the fall of Vega Prime, her home colony. She had watched it burn from orbit while orders came through to retreat. She hadn't. The last transmission she received from her family was a simple phrase, "Don't let them take everything." Now, on Erebus 9, she intended to honor that promise. Rafi, she said into her comm, how fast can we convert the mining satellites into kinetic platforms? Her engineer's voice came back laced with static. Not fast enough to survive, Commander. Then fast enough to make them regret finding us. There was a pause, then a quiet chuckle. Copy that. Arya turned to Ramos. Send every drone to the debris field. Have them scatter metal fragments, junk, anything reflective. I want their sensors blind. The plan was reckless, desperate, perfectly human. Within minutes, the surrounding space turned chaotic. Scraps of wreckage and decoys filled the enemy's targeting systems with false echoes. When the next barrage came, half the plasma bolts went wide, detonating harmlessly in the void. Now! She shouted. Return fire, full spread! The Vigilant One unleashed its remaining ordnance. The combined burst from the station, and the last two defense frigates struck the already damaged alien cruiser. Its shields flared, failed, and the vessel erupted into a blossom of white fire. The bridge erupted in cheers, raw, exhausted triumph. For the first time in this war, they had killed one of the Dominion's own. But the moment didn't last. 6 more ships advanced, formation tightening like a predator closing its jaws. Arya silenced the cheering with a raised hand. Don't celebrate yet. They're angry now. The next volley hit harder. One of their frigates disintegrated in silence. The shockwave rattled Vigilant One, tearing away armor plates. Shields gone! Ramos called out. We can't take another hit. Arya stood tall despite the chaos. Divert everything to the coil guns. If this is it, we fire until the barrels melt. Her crew obeyed without hesitation. The roar of weapons filled the calm channels. Arya watched the tactical display, blips of human vessels winking out one by one, each taking a piece of the enemy with them. When the Dominion finally broke through the outer defense ring, the planet's surface began to burn. Cities lit up like dying stars. Arya swallowed hard. She opened the surface channel again. Ground command status? Evacuation nearly complete. Gate stable for 2 more minutes. We're sending the last transport now. Good. Once it's through, overload the gate. They can't follow. The operator hesitated. And you, Commander? I'll be right behind you. It was a lie, but she made it sound true. As the final transport vanished through the collapsing wormhole, Arya turned to her crew. Prepare for remote detonation of the reactor. If we go down, we take their lead ship with us. Ramos looked at her, eyes wide but resolute. Understood, ma'am. Through the viewport, the Dominion flagship loomed, massive, elegant, arrogant. The same voice echoed again, calm as ever. Commander Vance. You have fought bravely. End this. Your world is ash. She keyed the transmitter one last time. You talk too much. The reactor overloaded. Energy surged through the station's core, flooding every conduit with blinding light. Arya's last sight before the blast was the Dominion flagship engulfed in a chain reaction, its armor splitting apart like glass under a hammer. Silence followed. Far below, on the ravaged surface of Erebus 9, the survivors looked up to see 2 suns bloom in the sky, one their own, the other the dying light of Vigilant One. For a moment, humanity had made the impossible happen. They hadn't won, but they hadn't surrendered. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the message of defiance began to spread. The wreckage of Vigilant One still glowed in orbit, an artificial sunrise over the broken world of Erebus 9. Its molten shards drifted silently, glinting like funeral embers. Below, the planet smoldered in the aftermath of bombardment. Entire cities had turned to ash, but pockets of life clung to the darkened soil. Commander Arya Vance awoke to the hiss of oxygen filters. She lay on a cot inside a makeshift bunker carved beneath a mining ridge. Her shoulder was bandaged, her uniform torn, but she was alive. Around her, the command shelter buzzed with quiet activity, soldiers and civilians working by the dim light of portable generators. How long was I out? She asked, voice rough. Lieutenant Ramos looked up from a terminal. 18 hours. We pulled you from the escape pod before the radiation reached lethal levels. Arya pushed herself upright, ignoring the pain that lanced through her ribs. Status report. He exhaled. Gates gone. We detonated it after the last transport left. No communication with Central Command. We're on our own. Arya's gaze swept the room. 23 survivors, mostly engineers and medics. Too few soldiers. Too little equipment. Then we hold the line here, she said. If the Dominion thinks they wiped us out, we use that. From a corner, Rafi Torres, the station's chief engineer, looked up from a cluster of scavenged alien components. I was hoping you'd say that. His grin was weary but alive. We salvaged 3 intact drones from the crash fields. Their cores are damaged, but their comm systems still function. What can we do with them? If I can rewire their control nodes, maybe turn them into remote delivery systems. Payloads, data spikes, viruses, anything we can make them carry. Arya nodded slowly. Make it happen. We're not done fighting. Outside, ash fell like snow. The air was thick, metallic. The sky, once bright with trade shuttles and orbital lanes, was now an endless bruise. Arya climbed to the surface through a narrow shaft. From the ridge, she could see the remains of the colony, collapsed towers, twisted metal, faint trails of smoke where life still flickered. Keed Lin, the bunker's medic, joined her. We can't stay here long, she said quietly. Radiation levels are rising, and the air filters won't last forever. Arya stared at the horizon. We stay until we make them notice. Then we make them regret coming here. Keed's expression softened. You're still thinking like a commander. Someone has to. That night, they gathered around the flickering holomap. Rafi had managed to activate one of the drones. Its lens blinked like a blue eye. I've built a bridge into their comm spectrum, he explained. Short range only, but enough to intercept transmissions. The Dominion's using a relay ship in low orbit. If we infect it, the virus will spread through their battle net. Ramos frowned. You're talking about hacking an empire with scrap metal and wishful thinking. That's what humans do best, Rafi replied. Arya leaned forward. We'll need a launch point near the magnetic poles, less interference. Prepare a strike team. Minimal signatures. They moved at dawn. The wind bit through their suits as they crossed the frozen highlands. The terrain was jagged, scarred by bombardment. Every step crunched over glass soil. When they reached the ridge overlooking the Dominion relay site, Arya saw the alien structure, sleek, towering, and pulsing with dim blue light. Drones patrolled in silence, gliding like shadows. Rafi crouched beside her, adjusting the modified drone in his hands. Once it uplinks, the virus will ride their signal straight to the command net. Make it fast, Arya said. We won't get a second chance. They advanced under cover of electromagnetic interference, weaving through the debris. Keith stayed back, monitoring their vitals from a portable console. Halfway to the relay, one of the alien drones shifted direction. Its sensor light swept across the plain, catching the glint of Rafi's equipment. The machine turned sharply. Contact, Arya whispered. Down! The first plasma bolt hissed past her ear, vaporizing rock. Ramos returned fire, the recoil thudding through the still air. The modified rifle spat tungsten slugs, primitive but lethal. The drone shattered midair. Move! Arya ordered. They sprinted the final stretch as alarms pulsed from the alien structure. Rafi jammed the modified drone into the relay port and keyed the activation sequence. The screen flared with cascading symbols. It's working! Good, Arya said. Now let's disappear. They retreated through smoke and heat, the mountain trembling under retaliatory bombardment. One blast threw Arya to the ground. Her visor cracked. She saw streaks of plasma rain over the ridge, burning holes through the ice. Rafi hauled her up, coughing. Virus uploaded, signal spreading. Back in the bunker, they watched the data feed. Alien transmissions flickered, disrupted, collapsing into chaos. Rafi laughed, a sound of disbelief. We did it. Their comms are collapsing faster than I thought. Ramos grinned. You just crippled a fleet with a stolen drone and a wrench. But Arya's eyes stayed fixed on the monitor. No. We bought time. Nothing more. Hours later, the Dominion responded. A new transmission cut through the static, clean, deliberate. The voice was unmistakable. Commander Arya Vance. You continue to defy inevitability. Curious. Your species clings to life like mold in the dark. Vorth Kael'than's tone carried neither anger nor admiration, only fascination. Arya stood before the terminal. You underestimate mold, Marshal. It grows where nothing else can. Your planet is condemned. We will sterilize it within the day. Accept extinction with dignity. She cut the channel. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Keed looked at her. What now? Arya didn't hesitate. We fight back before they glass the planet. If we can hit their flagship, maybe the others will think twice before attacking what's left of us. Rafi blinked. Hit their flagship? With what? We don't even have an engine that still runs. She pointed at the map. The old fusion plant near the equatorial ridge, it's intact. We overload it, channel the output through the relay tower. When they target us, the feedback surge will punch through their command network. It's suicide, but it'll fry every ship in low orbit. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Ramos nodded. Then we make it count. Keed's voice was soft. You'll die up there. Arya met her gaze. We all die. The question is what it costs them. Outside, lightning crackled across the polluted sky. The storm that followed hid their movements as they prepared the fusion core. Rafi worked until his hands bled, rerouting conduits and calibrating overload parameters. Near midnight, he looked up from the terminal. Once we start this, there's no turning back. Arya rested a hand on his shoulder. There never was. The hum of the reactor filled the bunker like a heartbeat. Keed distributed ration packs to the volunteers, her face pale but steady. Commander, Ramos said quietly, if this works, if they pull back, what then? Then someone somewhere will hear that humanity didn't vanish quietly, Arya said. The generator lights flickered as power surged to the reactor. From orbit, the Dominion fleet shifted formation, their weapons charging. The sky began to burn again. Arya keyed the broadcast system, her voice carrying across the planet's emergency channels. To anyone still alive, this is Commander Arya Vance. Erebus 9 stands. We may fall today, but we will not kneel. If you can hear me, fight. If you can't, remember. The transmission ended as the first plasma volley struck the mountains. The ground convulsed, and the night became a furnace. Inside the bunker, Arya stared at the rising heat signature on the holomap. Her decision was made. We fight, she whispered. If we burn bright enough for the next world to see. Dawn never came to Erebus 9. The sky was a constant haze of ash and static, painted by the faint glow of burning wreckage in orbit. The Dominion fleet hung above the planet like a crown of knives, motionless but watchful. Inside the mountain bunker, the air was thick with heat and ozone. The overloaded reactor throbbed like a dying heart, its containment field humming at dangerous frequencies. Commander Arya Vance stood beside the flickering holomap, watching energy levels climb past safety limits. Her team worked in silence, focused, resigned, determined. Rafi, status, she said. The engineer wiped sweat from his brow. We're almost at maximum charge. Once the feedback loop hits critical, it'll jump through the relay tower straight into their command grid. How long until detonation? 10 minutes. Maybe less if the cooling systems fail. Then we'll make it count. Keed Lin, now pale from exhaustion, handed Arya a stim injector. You need this more than anyone. You haven't slept in days. Arya took it, pressed it into her arm without a word, and felt her focus sharpen. Has the Dominion noticed? Ramos looked up from the scanner console. Oh, they've noticed. Half their fleet is repositioning above our coordinates. Good, Arya said. Let them come. The bunker lights flickered as shockwaves rolled through the rock. Distant explosions echoed. The Dominion had begun their final assault. Rafi tightened a coolant valve, his hands trembling. Once we activate the uplink, someone's gotta stay here to stabilize the flow until it hits overload. Arya met his eyes. That'll be me. He froze. No. You don't have to. I do. You all get to the surface and reach the relay tower. Launch the virus packet through the signal node once the surge begins. I'll make sure it connects. Ramos stepped forward. Commander, with respect, this is suicide. It's command, she said evenly. And you all still have work to do. Silence filled the room, heavy and absolute. Then Rafi nodded once. Then we'll make sure they hear you before the end. The team departed through the access tunnel. Arya watched them vanish into the storm, then turned back to the core chamber. The containment rings pulsed brighter with each passing second, painting the metal walls in shifting blue light. Her hands moved across the control panel, precise, practiced. Systems hummed to life. Alarms wailed. The mountain trembled. Outside, Rafi's team reached the relay tower buried in ice and debris. They set the last of the power couplings and activated the signal booster. Keith's hands shook as she linked the data core. Transmission channel ready, she said. Ramos looked toward the horizon, where the Dominion fleet began descending through the clouds. She better hurry. In orbit, aboard the Dominion flagship Caelthlin's Will, High Marshal Vorth watched the chaos unfold. Human interference had crippled communication, destabilized his command algorithms, and now, unthinkably, a concentrated energy surge was building from the planet's surface. He rose from his throne-like command seat. Locate the source. Impossible, my lord, his adjutant replied. The signal is fracturing through multiple frequencies. It defies pattern logic. Vorth's jaw tightened. Then we destroy everything. His fleet began charging their primary weapons, the combined firepower capable of turning Erebus 9 into vapor. Back in the bunker, Arya heard the faint echo of the incoming barrage. She keyed open a private transmission, one linked directly to the alien flagship through the virus channel. A moment later, the holographic image of Vorth Caelthlin materialized before her, his scaled features impassive. Commander Vance, he said. You persist even in futility. Your world dies, yet you remain. Arya stared at him through the wavering image. You still don't understand us, do you? Understanding is unnecessary. Victory is all that matters. Then that's why you'll never win. Your defiance changes nothing. It changes everything. Because somewhere, someone is watching this. They'll hear what we did. They'll remember that humanity didn't kneel. Vorth's expression flickered, as if irritation cracked his mask. You will be ashes before they remember. Arya smiled faintly. Maybe. But the ashes will still burn. She cut the transmission and keyed the final override. The reactor's containment rings turned white-hot. Outside, Rafi saw the tower surge with energy. She's doing it! He shouted over the roaring wind. Signal spike! Massive output! Keith's voice trembled. The surge is building faster than predicted. She won't survive that. Rafi slammed his fist against the console. Then we make sure she didn't die for nothing. Launch the packet! Ramos triggered the transmission. The signal leapt from the relay tower into the sky, a blinding beam that pierced the clouds. It connected with the Dominion's network, threading through the communication lattice like fire through dry grass. In orbit, alien systems went dark one by one. Engines failed, weapons froze, navigation arrays spiraled into static. The fleet wavered. Inside the flagship, alarms screamed in Vorth's native language. His ship's AI sputtered nonsense as human code infected its core. Contain it! He barked. Purge the system! But the virus wasn't built to destroy, it was built to broadcast. Across every Dominion channel, a single transmission played. To whoever's listening, humanity fights. Remember that. Vorth turned toward the viewport. Through the storm, he saw the mountain erupt into light. The reactor's detonation swallowed the bunker in silence. The explosion expanded upward, a column of white fire piercing the sky. For a moment, the entire hemisphere lit brighter than day. The Dominion fleet faltered. Two capital ships collided as systems shorted, their hulls breaking apart. On the surface, Rafi's team was thrown to the ground as shockwaves tore across the plains. When the light faded, Half the alien formation was gone, disabled, drifting. The rest began retreating, their formation broken for the first time in the war. Keed pushed herself up, coughing. She did it! Ramos stared at the sky where the flare had been. No, we did. They watched as debris from the Dominion flagship fell like meteors, streaking across the horizon. For the first time since the invasion began, the sky of Erebus 9 was beautiful. Hours later, the storm cleared. The survivors gathered near the damaged relay tower, repairing what they could. Rafi worked silently until the console flickered, an incoming signal, faint but clear. Keed leaned close. Is that? Rafi's eyes widened. The voice was distorted, distant, but unmistakably human. This is Outpost Callisto, receiving transmission. Erebus 9, do you copy? We saw your signal across half the sector. What happened out there? Ramos laughed, a sound of disbelief and relief tangled together. They heard us. Someone actually heard us. Keith smiled through tears. She was right. The spark survived. Rafi adjusted the transmitter. Outpost Callisto, this is Erebus 9. We're alive. Tell the colonies, humanity stands. Far beyond the ruined planet, the Dominion fleet limped away in silence. Vorth Kael'thlan watched the data logs replay the final human transmission. Despite his defeat, he couldn't erase the echo from his mind. Humanity fights. Remember that. He stared into the void where Erebus 9 burned, his expression unreadable. Perhaps, he murmured, we will. On the surface, Rafi stood beside the remains of the relay tower. Dawn finally touched the horizon, weak, red, but real. The ash had begun to settle. He looked upward, imagining Arya somewhere beyond sight, her last words carried across the stars. Rest easy, Commander, he whispered. They'll know. The wind shifted, scattering dust and light through the valley. In that moment, under a broken sky, the impossible war had ended, not in victory, not in surrender, but in proof. Humanity hadn't vanished. It had endured. And its defiance now lived among the stars.